3 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock and I'll call to order the Board of Directors study session for Thursday, February 17th, 2022. Can I have a roll call, please?
Director Grasha.
Here.
Director Sewell.
Here.
Director Duncan.
Here.
Vice President Wright. Here. President Martin.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Item number 4, rules of procedure. Counselor?
Yes, according to the rules of procedure adopted by the Board of Directors, all noticed meetings are conducted using Rosenberg's Rules of Order as a procedural guideline. Directors should refrain from responding directly to public comments at meetings of the board. The president is responsible for the maintenance of order and decorum at all board meetings. No person should be allowed to speak who has not first been recognized by the president. No member of the board should speak more than once upon any one subject until every other member of the board wishing to speak on the subject shall have been given an opportunity to speak. No board member shall interfere with the orderly progress of a board meeting. The board president regulates the amount of time to be dedicated to a particular agenda item.
Thank you, Counselor. Public input. Do we have anybody in the members of the public that wish to address the board?
No, President Martin, not today.
Okay. Item 6, a COVID update. Brian?
Thank you, President Martin. The MSWD COVID infection rates continue to rise and fall in a manner consistent with the local, state, and national rates. We have a significant decrease in the number of staff who have been infected or have had close contact with someone who has been exposed to COVID. Currently, we just have one employee who is dealing with COVID-related issues, which is significantly down from the 13 that we had just 5 weeks ago. Hoping this comment doesn't jinx the district, it is, to date, we have had no reported infections that have been traced back to the district. So I'm very proud of that and our staff for being able to be safe and vigilant even here at work as well as at home. Staff are continuing to follow all the state and OSHA guidelines. As of yesterday, staff who are fully vaccinated no longer, including ourselves, have to wear masks while indoors. However, unvaccinated employees are required to wear masks indoors. We do continue to promote 6 feet of separation. All of this is very good news, and we'll continue to update the board as the policies change. Are there any questions from the board?
Any questions from the board?
No, thank you.
I don't see anybody raising their hand, so thank you. We'll move on to item 7, the Human Resources Report. We've got a number of people to mention on the Human Resources Report, and we will address that on Tuesday. By the way, just as a reminder that the board meeting, the regular board meeting, will be on Tuesday because of President's Day. So make sure that you mark your calendars thusly. Okay, item 8, action to be taken in study session. Resolution 2022-02, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Mission Springs Water District proclaiming a local emergency persists, re-ratifying the proclamation of a state of emergency by Executive Order N as in Nora 0921, and reauthorizing remote teleconference meetings of the legislative bodies of the Mission Springs Water District for the period of February 20th through March 20th. Yes.
No, okay, never mind. We're not
Vice
ready to make a motion. Never mind. Nothing.
Okay, does
Yeah, we
anybody?
do need to take action today.
This isn't.
Oh, we do. That's right. Okay,
Yes.
that's why I thought. That's why I thought that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll also move resolution 2022-2.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any comments from the board?
No comment.
I don't see any hands raised, so roll call vote, please.
Director Grasha.
Yes.
Director Sewell.
Yes.
Director Duncan.
Yes.
Vice President Wright.
Aye.
President Martin.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, item 9. Notice of public hearing number 2, February 22nd, 2022, to receive public input on the redistricting of Mission Springs Water District division boundaries.
Just briefly on this, Mr. President. We have David Eli attending on Tuesday. He'll be giving the report on Tuesday and answering any questions you have. And then Misty Calder, who's been working on this matter from my office, will also be attending. I will not be there Tuesday because I have council meetings on Tuesday. So Ms. Calder from my office will be attending in my place.
And just for your information, the board, there is a lot of information in the agenda packet. It'll be helpful. One request I would make in the future thing is that the maps that are provided in the agenda packet, I needed a magnifying glass before I could see the street names on the maps itself to determine exactly where the boundaries were. If we could enlarge those maps a little bit, hopefully we'll have larger maps for the public meeting available. Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'll make that request to Mr. Eli.
Okay, all right. Moving on to item 10, award the on-call well and booster maintenance and repair services contracts with Southwest Pump and Drilling Incorporated, Legend Pump and Well Service Incorporated, and L.O. Lynch Quality Wells and Pumps Incorporated. It is recommended to authorize the general manager to award and do all things necessary to complete the on-call booster and well maintenance and repair services contracts for the contractors listed above. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this item in front of you from a study session perspective is to authorize the general manager to award and do all things necessary to complete the on-call booster and well maintenance and repair services contract for the three contractors you just mentioned. These three contractors were selected through a request for proposal process. The general scope of this work for these contracts is to provide MSWD with routine and preventive maintenance on wells, booster pumps at our production sites, as well as on-call emergency services. The initial term of the contract is anticipated to be from March 2022 to June 2023. Yes, this does span both or 2 fiscal years. We do have an option to extend the agreement or renegotiate some of the pricing if necessary for up to 3 additional 1-year terms. All 3 contractors are licensed appropriately in the state of California and will maintain an active license throughout the duration of the contract. From a financial perspective, the 2022 budget did appropriate approximately $250,000 for these types of services, and it's expected that we will ask for an additional 250 in next fiscal year. Hence why we're able to go to the 450 number if you add all 3 contracts together. If a repair or a contract exceeds the amount that we're talking about, either the 150 for each contractor or over the $250,000 amount, basically if a well breaks down and we have to pull it and do some other things and want to use one of these 3 because it's an emergency item, the item will come back to you for approval. So this does give us some flexibility to select between these 3 contractors and get pricing based off of these 3 contractors. Any larger item that exceeds what we're looking at today will come back to you for evaluation. So just wanted to make sure that you understood that while we do have some flexibility at the administrative level, it's still going to come back to you if it exceeds any of these numbers. So with that, are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? Raise your hand if you have any questions. Yes, Randy.
150,000 compared to what we spend for some of these wells, this is not a huge number. Is this more for emergency work, maintenance, replacing something that goes out kind of a thing?
Yes, it is. Yes, we will still have, for example, we have well 22 that is currently going through a rehab process. It's been out for several months and we're redoing the motor control center and things of that nature. That capital project will still exist. This is simply for smaller maintenance items. Right now, when a motor goes down, we really have to go through a process to get a vendor to come in and pull that motor and get it rewound or get it worked on and things like this. This will allow us to turn to one of these 3 or if all 3 to get contract pricing to see who's the best qualified and can do it in an expeditious manner. It is specifically for repairs to our production sites.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Just clarification, this doesn't expand the general manager's power to 150,000, does it? What, it's already, in my view, too high at 75,000. And you're saying this is just limited to these three companies. And am I getting that right? That this won't be there will be no assumptions made that this is an authorization to do other things to up to 150,000 without board approval?
No.
I'm not sure that I understand your question, Director Raja. This will allow us to spend up to 150,000 with each contractor, up to an appropriated number in the budget of $250,000 total.
Right. My concern is we're increasing the general manager's ability to spend more than his existing limitations, which are already too high, and it has the ability to allow the general manager to basically run amok without oversight from the board, which is the only reason we're here. And I have a problem with that. And so I want to clarify that only if these three companies are falling under the increase.
It's a different resolution that he's talking about.
Well,
Could you
yeah,
expand on that, Vice
Well,
President?
what I think he's talking about is we give this general manager, we've raised it, I guess, to 75,000 now. So if something comes up and it hasn't been on a board agenda, he can approve something and then come back and tell the board what happened, up to $75,000. But this isn't that.
well.
This is
but-
just for
but it
these
is.
three guys, these three
Right.
companies. It's for exactly what it says, on-call booster and well maintenance and repair services. That's all it's for.
Right, except that it's called mission creep. And now you're signaling that you're okay with the general manager spending
I didn't-
150,000. Well,
All I said was that the resolution, it would be a different resolution than this one. And you were the one who said 75,000. I was just quoting you.
right, and that's what the limitation is. Generally within the I got from a previous board meeting. So I'm making an assumption that what was said then is true. I don't even know if that's true, but that number should really be around $20,000 limit.
That's not on the agenda today.
See, we're actually voting on to approve this, so we are taking that. The
Right,
general manager isn't taking that position, we are. So it's not really the same thing as he isn't arbitrarily going out and without board approval and approving something, because this is what we will be approving on Tuesday is if you agree that we would proceed on this. So it's already being approved if it's approved by the board. It's not something that's arbitrarily done by the general manager.
right. But I haven't heard anybody so far clarify that it is limited to absolutely the three companies detailed in this agenda item. I've heard mention that it might be. I want it to be clarified that this is not a overall expansion of his powers without board oversight.
No, it says if you read the agenda item, it says that the on-call booster and well maintenance and repair services contracts for the contractors listed above. It doesn't give a blanket permission to go outside that without coming back to the board if that's required.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Those are good comments, by the way. Any other questions? Okay, and we will address that on Tuesday. If there's any public comments on this issue at all.
President Martin, the only member of the public we have on the line is Jan
I can just
Pye.
barely hear you, Dory.
Sorry, the only member of the public besides our presenters today is Jan Pye from the city.
Oh, okay.
Councilmember Pye, did you care to make public comment on this item?
No, thank you. I'm just observing.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Item 11. Mission Springs Water District Regional Water Reclamation Facility Update.
That will be handled on Tuesday.
Tuesday, all right. Number 12, Critical Services Center and Administrative Building update.
Thank you, President Martin. As you know, MSWD staff has been working with Renewal Clark Architects for the past several months to develop site and building layouts for the critical services and administrative building at Two Bunch. Previously, they have presented to the board the results of a space planning study and general building layouts. Today, Renewal Clark will present the draft site layout, interior configuration, and external building facades for discussion. If these layouts are met with board's concurrence, and the facade can be selected, Renewal Clark's team is prepared to move to the next phase of the project, will actually be the design of the building itself. It's my pleasure to turn this meeting over at this time to, I believe, Roger Clark is on the line for their presentation.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Alvin's going to share the presentation, and Alvin, if you could just go to the agenda. I just want to kind of go over briefly what we're going to talk about. We're going to present to you today some site planning concepts and ideas that we have, the building floor plan development and how that was moved forward. Some interior concepts, very general, the boardroom configurations for you to look at and to think about. We have some questions and some things that we'd like you to consider there. So some boardroom options, and then some exterior building design options. And so we're going to talk about all of those, and we'll try to keep this fairly brief and then open it up to any questions that you have. So in terms of the site plan, we're fronting on Two Bunch Palms. We have a main entrance where we have the public parking in front of the headquarters building. And I'll have Brent or Alvin just look at, point to the major features. And so we have basically a public parking lot right now, and right in the very front of the building. To the left of that, we have the staff parking lot. There is a water quality basin that's on the kind of along the street as the site flows out and before it goes into any drainage situation. Then we have the operations building, which would be behind a fence or a wall that comes from the headquarters out to the edge of the site to your neighboring property. And then we have areas with covered canopies. Right now, we're looking at solar canopies where we can generate electricity for the project to offset utility costs, but also parking for your white fleet and all of your vehicles, materials, and everything that goes in there. And we'll go through each of the building floor plans and show you what's in those. But the operations building is generally, you have vehicle maintenance bays, some storage and warehouse and tools and all the things that support that building and those functions. And then in terms of the site planning, to the right, what you're seeing in the headquarters, you actually see the Coachella Valley Conservation Land floodway and that area. Immediately to the right of the building, we have a kind of an overflow, actually down a little bit, Alvin, if you could point to it right there to the right of that. From the boardroom, there is an overflow area where you can spill out, but also the idea here is to create a demonstration garden where you can demonstrate to the community wise use of water, planting, all those things that are important in terms of water conservation within your district. In the back of the building, where it says headquarters, there is a kind of an employee spill out area, an outdoor area, not extensive or anything, and not anything expensive or anything, but an area where they can go outside, they can have lunch, and also that you can actually have outdoor meetings if you so chose to do that. If we can go to the next page, Alvin. So from a planning perspective, what we looked at, we took tours of the East Valley Water District project, but we also met with your staff and started talking to them about where all the programming was, where all the positions were. And this was kind of where we aligned in terms of coming in the front door. We have customer service in a lobby there, but customer service on the left, where if someone has an appointment or they come into the building, they can meet with someone there. To the left of that is engineering. And behind that is actually accounting functions. To the right, as you come in the front door, is restrooms in the boardroom. And you saw this for those of you who visited the East Valley District. It's set up so that you can operate that portion of the building without having to open up the entire building. And so you actually have the boardroom and restrooms and the areas that support the public interaction, those types of activities that can be opened up, but you're actually closing off the rest of the building to anyone visiting. And so after hours, those kinds of things. We do have a small event space outside of that that comes off of the boardroom, which we'll show you in a little bit. And then the executive offices and areas for the board members and that in the back of that boardroom facility. Going back over to the other side, there's also the support functions for restrooms, staff lounge, emergency supplies, those kinds of things. There's some flex space to the left of that, which we're calling wellness right now. But one of the things that staff talked to us about was really that needs to be a flexible space that is really for if you have any other large meetings, whether you needed a emergency operations center or anything else that supports the overall functioning of your district, that space could be utilized for that. Then you have a locker room for your staff that are coming in and out from the field, and that's adjacent to the operations facility, and it's also adjacent to the operations building that's next door. And so that's kind of the general layout of the building. And so Alvin, if we could go to the floor plan. And so this is what it starts to look like from a floor planning perspective. And so we'll go through it real quickly from what we talked about before. The idea of the boardroom is that you can come in from these main doors here for the public. If there's a public meeting, they can use the restrooms, but they don't have to have access to the rest of the building. Behind that, there is a closed session room, conference rooms, which doubles as the general managers and a kind of an executive conference room there. There's support facilities with restrooms, electrical rooms and data rooms that just support the technology and the function of a modern boardroom. There is an area here and a door to come in from the back for board members, whether they need to come and see the general manager. One of the things we talked about is having a place for them to come in, do whatever business they need to do. They can meet with the general manager or whatever they have to do, but have a way for them to come into the facility. They don't have to go right through the public front door. There's some additional offices in this space and then some open flex space that's kind of supporting all of the functions moving forward from an executive level. Off of the lobby and also in this executive, there is a conference room. And the idea is if you have a upset customer, that kind of thing, you can bring them in there, or you can bring them into one of the smaller rooms on the other side of the lobby, be able to meet with them one-on-one and deal with any kind of issue. But that your lobby is very secure. You're not opening your whole building up to everyone coming in the front door. Behind that kind of customer service area, which Alvin is pointing to now, is actually the open workstations. They can see public coming in, they can monitor what's happening. There is kind of a secure glass around the front of that, not necessarily closing it off, but providing some shielding, as we've learned from COVID and what we've just gone through. That's an important factor. And then behind that is your accounting suite and functions back there. And the idea is that you're bringing in natural light into those spaces, and so that you're sharing it. It's not all dedicated just to those with private offices. There are shared spaces along that main spine. And Alvin, if you could point to that spine, the idea is that a lot of these functions are interconnected in terms of departments with each other, trying to create a very collaborative working environment. And so what he's pointing to right now is getting into engineering and the spaces that they need. There's workrooms, plotter rooms, storage spaces, but also the office and collaboration spaces that they need. And that also contains your SCADA, which is shared kind of back and forth between engineering and your operations people that are over there kind of in the left-hand side that he's pointing to now. And then on the other side of the hallway, which I mentioned before, is the staff lounge, that kitchen area, but really doubling as an additional meeting space. And the idea of if you ever get into an emergency situation, that space and even the boardroom could be used as an emergency operations center. And then to the left, much like you saw for those that visited East Valley, we have the locker room and areas for uniforms, shower and support facilities for those workers and staff that are out in the field and need to come back and get cleaned up before going home. Alvin, if we could go to the next page. This is kind of in a very early stage, but what we wanted to start talking about is some of the color palettes and looking at things. One of the things we're looking at is mimicking the water, bodies of water in motion. And so you'll see that kind of throughout in some of the ideas, but earth tones, very natural kinds of materials and settings for the building. We do want to, one of the things we talked about is building upon the history and the maybe some of the photographs and things in terms of the history of the water district, developing graphics and bringing people together as a community and being a steward for the community. And so there will be, at least right now, we're looking at developing environmental graphics that support that. We're looking at kind of natural materials and a very warm, inviting kind of space for your employees, not necessarily anything that's expensive, but the idea of creating that kind of natural environment and using the natural materials, whether it's wood or stone or even things that mimic those in some cases. Let's go to the next page. So one of the things we look at always is options for boardrooms. And one of the things I just want to point out here is what we're looking at primarily is the board dais and the ability, if you have a very flat dais, then board members can't see each other and it becomes much more difficult to interact. And so these are just different configurations and we'd like, I guess, your feedback or input on those. Starting with the option 1, you have ability to look over and see what someone is talking and see their face, see what there's, and you have that kind of nonverbal feedback from your other board members, staff tables on either side, and obviously your public seating area. And one of the things I want to emphasize about the boardroom is the idea is this is a meeting room. When you're not using it as a boardroom, this is where you have your staff training, you have large meetings, you can have workshops, you could even have the public in there. Or in the case of like East Valley, they even actually have events there and then they spill out, to an outside event area. In the second option, what you're seeing is kind of what we call a horseshoe, where everyone really has maximized viewing of the other members, almost sort of this circular or semicircular sort of shape. And so again, it's just a matter of different configurations. I do want to have Alvin point out where the media is in terms of presentations. It's on that back wall, primarily for the public. What we would assume is that each member of the board would also have a monitor at their station, but also would have monitors on the wall to the right also. And we can review that in more detail as we get into three-dimensional modeling of that space as we move forward. I think we have one more option. This is the kind of the flat option where, again, the board members don't necessarily see each other's faces. What this does is maximizes the amount of space available for training room and other functions, moves that dais as far back as possible, but not necessarily ideal for the public meeting function and seeing each other and having that interaction with each other. So if we could go to the next page, Alan. So the next few pages are going to look at options of the building facade and some of the design. And what you're going to see is a series of, in this case, what you're looking at is flat images for the first option, what we call elevations, if you're not familiar with that terminology, but it's really looking at the building as if you're standing, if you could see it just completely flat. And then we're going to show you some perspectives and views around the building in each of these. Hopefully, primarily, we tried to pick images that were in similar locations, but it's really just giving different flavors to this building and some completely different approaches. And some things are similar still. And you'll see kind of that continuation of the colors and materials and things and kind of the natural materials. And so this is the first option. This would be the idea of up in the upper right-hand corner, that main entry, the glass, the transparency, welcoming people in to the facility. We do have a small water feature out there to talk about, stewardship of water and kind of the history and the purpose of what you do. And then on the left-hand photo you see is the boardroom off to the right, and again, that main entry. And then on the bottom, what you're seeing is that kind of overall facade of the building or elevation of the building. And so what you're seeing is quite a bit of glass in this option. the building overhang to shade that, and then very openness or open kind of concept of bringing light into the building. And this is kind of a sloped roof that slopes from the back and to the front, kind of to a central portion along the central spine of the building, if you will. We can go to the next page, Owen. So this is just some alternate views of looking at materials and colors, spaces out in front, having spaces for people to sit. There's still security, fencing, those kinds of things. What you're seeing there is that spill out area from the boardroom. And again, that main entry. The one on the right is actually looking at that, at the kind of the back of the building, looking at as you come between the executive wing on the left. Alvin, if you could point to that, and then that accounting area to the right, and that kind of main entry. And so you're seeing out to the kind of the back of the facility, the idea of creating landscaping that's indigenous plants, those kinds of things, low water use, but also creating an area for your employees to spill out. Let's go to the next page. Again, this is just kind of a bird's eye view, and what you're seeing in the back there is the operations building and some of that landscape demonstration garden that we talked about. And again, that can be made smaller, bigger, as the board desires. And then the idea on the left-hand side of that event space with some shaded area where people can come out there, whether you have a workshop or you have a nighttime function with your community, whatever it is, if that's so desired in the project. And then let's go to the next page. This is the second option, something completely different. And it really, you know, we developed different concepts. We're not really sure exactly where the board is at in terms of the architecture. This one is kind of looking at, you know, the strong shapes in the landscape, mimicking some of the mountains that are in the background, very natural colors, materials. You see, I guess, a common theme throughout all of these is the colors that are developed, the copper, the metal panels, the cement plaster, all in kind of earth tones, but very strong geometric shapes in this concept. But the ideas of bringing light in, probably more mass, less glass in this concept than the one you saw previously. Let's go to the next page. But again, on the upper left, what you see is that main entry, obviously signage that designates the Mission Springs Water District, the boardroom to the right with that kind of open transparency. And then if you go down to the bottom one, you'll see the elevation there where you see the operations area, the engineering to the left of that main entry. And so on the upper right-hand side, you're seeing that main entry into the building as a part of this concept. And if we go to the next page. And this is looking at kind of that same view that you saw on the last one, where you're looking to the left, you see on the right-hand image is the executive offices, and then the accounting on the right down there. Yeah, the accounting offices to the right, and then that kind of back entry into that main spine, if you will, that runs down the building. And then in the other image, what you're seeing is kind of the front of the building, but just a little bit further back. And so you start to see the reflection of the mountains and the landscape, kind of the strong desert shapes that you might see from the rocks and the formations of that that you see in the desert often. And so building upon that kind of idea. If we go to the next page, Ellen. So again, looking at kind of the same views that you saw in the last one, what you're seeing on the right-hand side is that boardroom with that strong shape and the entry, and then but a fairly simple architecture behind that. And so you're not seeing as much overall articulation as you saw in the other one, a lower profile a little bit in most of the areas, except for where the boardroom and the entry pops up, and then a little bit along the front of the building. Fairly simple along the back. What you see here is a simple trellis, again, with the gardens around there. And then the employee break area in the back. And then again, you have the spill out area by the boardroom in the left-hand photo. If we can go to the next page, Alma. And this is the third option. And again, you're seeing kind of a common theme of the colors of the plaster, the materials, amount of glazing, that kind of thing, strong overhangs, shadow patterns, all of those kinds of things. Some other little details in here. And so you're seeing kind of on the upper right hand, I do want to point out a couple things. And so to the left, what you start seeing is the executive offices or the general manager's office there on the corner. You see that entry into that main spine, then the accounting offices, and then that kind of employee breakout area from the lounge and from the I guess wellness or flex space in there. And then to the right, you kind of see the mass of the fitness, or not, excuse me, not fitness, the locker rooms and showers and uniform area as a part of that. Let's go to the next page. So what you're seeing here is on the left-hand side is that main entry as you come in, and then again, the boardroom is in the same location. So these are just variations of looking at the same locations on the building that you saw throughout each one of these. In the right-hand rendering, what you're seeing is that boardroom, the idea of having some type of screening from that event space out to the public areas and to that parking lot. And so you can have something that's a more private event going on, but having the ability of being able to see into the boardroom, but have it with deep overhangs where you're able to get shade and shadow and protect that glass from strong sun. What you're seeing on the bottom is actually, again, just another view of that front of the building, if you will, that you would see from Two Bunch Palms. And then on the upper left, again, you see the entry into the building. We go to the next page, Alvin. Same view that you saw in some of the others, just a little bit different angle. In this case, this is that on the right is that lobby entry from the back side of the building. And then you're looking down towards those employee areas, if you will, kind of on the back side of it. And then in the left-hand rendering, what you're seeing is the overall front of the building. And it's kind of a simple massing, but this strong entry canopy, if you will, that invites people in, that makes it a friendly and inviting place for the community coming into the facility. Let's go to the next page. Similar view of what you saw before. You're seeing that kind of bird's eye. You see the operations building in the back. You see that event space in the gardens, just like you saw in the other schemes. And then on the left-hand rendering, what you're seeing is that outdoor space by the boardroom, the idea of the pavers, being able to absorb water that you have occasionally in the desert, but also the indigenous planting and low water use, water-wise planting as a part of the demonstration gardens. If you go to the next slide. And then we have the operations building, which I alluded to before. And the ideas here is really supporting all of your white fleet and the functions of everything else that you do as a water district. In this case, having the vehicle maintenance bays, and there's actually 3 bays there, with the idea of 2 of those having lift areas, a third one being a more flexible space for other things that you do and other activities that may be going on, special projects, that kind of thing. There is a small office area for staff that might be out in this building, a restroom, so they're not having to constantly run across to the main headquarters building. Tool storage and fluids that they have, obviously, for the vehicles, compressor and support rooms, and then a fairly good sized warehouse. One of the things we saw is, your existing facility is just, you have warehouse spaces in a number of different buildings. And so trying to consolidate, making this more efficient, and making the rack system available so that you can store the amount of materials that you need in one location and make that a very efficient function for the district. And if we could go to the next page. And this is what kind of that building looks like. So from a flat perspective, looking at the west, what you're seeing is those 1, 2, and 3 is kind of designated where those doors are into the vehicle maintenance bays, and then they exit out the other side. And the idea is we're never backing up vehicles, we're bringing those all the way through. And so then you're seeing on the left where you have the letter designation is where that warehouse bays are. And so on the west side, those would be the roll-up doors and the access to that space, but we wouldn't necessarily drive into that. And so we don't have doors on the other side. And again, in there, what we're doing is bringing in planting and things that soften this building and make it not feel like so much like it's an industrial building, if you will, and making it a part of the overall campus feel. You do have a lot of, paving because you have a lot of vehicles and parking and those kinds of things. And what you're seeing is kind of just the edge of the solar canopy there on the left-hand side of that rendering there. And so go to the next slide if we have it. I'm not sure if that's the last one.
This is the last one.
Okay. And so one of the things that we looked at was, if we wanted to look at reducing the amount of parking and reducing the amount of site utilization, saving some money, and probably need to look at these side by side, but the idea is pulling these areas down, using a smaller portion of this site, reducing the size of the garden area, the open area, the open space, if you will, reducing the size of that, still having adequate parking for all of your vehicles, but reducing the amount of paving and the amount of development on the site. And so what we're getting down to here is kind of, if you have the numbers over the side, Alvin, because I can't read them, it's 221 parking spaces versus I think the other one was about 327 parking spaces. And it breaks down operations parking on the other one, I think was about 150. Here it's 89. And we think we have about 70 vehicles? Is that correct, Alvin?
70, yeah, I think that's what we were aiming for.
Yeah. And then there's staff parking and public parking. And so it really is just a matter of how many people that you think you need to accommodate and how the growth will be within the district. And so what we want to do is just do a quick study for you to see how could we cut some of that back if the district wanted to, and how we wanted to look at that. And so with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions you have. I know I went through things fairly quickly, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, I have a question. Aside from the reduction in the parking spaces and things like that, are all three options, and maybe you're not the right person to ask this question to, but all of the three options of the design, the buildings, et cetera, all comparable cost for completion, or some of the designs less expensive than others?
They're actually within it. We're projecting that we're within about 200 to 250,000 from the most expensive to the least expensive of these. So very comparable in terms of cost of each of the different options that you're seeing today. And quite frankly, I would say to you is that we could get them to be identical if we needed to. This is really fairly early in the development of the project, and so we can look at some things where we could bring the cost of the most expensive one down to the cost of the least expensive one.
Of the three options you showed us, which one was the least expensive?
Option 2.
Okay,
And
So
then-
it's
and then
interesting.
the scaled down one that he has in front of us right now too, I see.
yeah, okay.
Well, and I'm not counting that part of it. Actually, that could apply to any one of the options. That saves about $1 million to $1.5 million by scaling that down. Also, the site development costs are fairly significant. Just the amount of paving and the amount of it, improvements, utilities, all those kinds of things on a project like this is significant. And so even the grading work that we'll have to do at the site. So we are projecting a fairly high cost on that in terms of that versus the building cost.
Yes. Okay, Director Grusha, do you have any comments to make?
Well, I could go on for days with this. One of the things that always concerned me about this site is I see you've got three, it looks like three ingress and egress from the front. When I look at that frontage, and I couldn't figure out how you could get more than one, but that was just me comparing it to the lot next door. I didn't think you could. So anyway, I just wanted to, that still concerns me how you're going to fit that. The other thing is, how adequate is the roadways going around out back for the yard personnel and warehouse and so forth. It looks a little cramped to me. Also, I'm concerned about the staff parking. Looks to be perhaps a little less secure than I would like. The public parking, wouldn't necessarily be as concerned with, because that's, people coming and going. But the staff parking area, to me, needs. Is there a wall going across that divides the public from the staff? And I don't know if I need to go into why I'm concerned about those things, but I think people should feel secure and be secure. And I'm afraid to compliment it, because whenever I compliment something, these projects seems to disappear and come back something that. But it seems to have everything that you could imagine being necessary, except it looks a little tight to me compared to what it could be. And I don't want to belabor the other site possibilities, but maybe you can pick that up and fill in the blanks.
If I could just comment a couple things on your comments. There is a fence in the back of the staff parking before you get to the operations yard, but that fence could actually be pulled out to the other side of the staff parking, and you could actually put that kind of what was kind of considered behind the wall. Sometimes there's security concerns with doing that, of having private vehicles in behind your operations wall, but that'd be something that you could discuss. But you could also even add a second fence if you wanted to also. And so, yes, that lot could be secured for the staff parking, and then keep the public parking open. There is certainly, I think, sufficient area to have the 3 drives. We could eliminate one of those. I don't think it's feasible to eliminate, and I would say the one to the right, because I think what we're trying to do is, like you mentioned, and we have done circulation analysis in terms of the size of the vehicles and the trucks and moving those. And we've done a number of these types of facilities. And so we do believe there's adequate turning radiuses, but we would obviously double check that with our engineers also going forward.
Let's go inside. There are certain, and I'm just, based on my own experience in business, there are certain elements of an operation like this that seem to me to be more critical. Well, they're all critical, of course, but for instance, where in that building is HR's area, and is it isolated or separated in any way from, say, the whatever group? Where do you have them at?
They're actually over in the executive wing. Alvin, if you could bring up the enlarged plans, if you have those handy.
Do 1 second. There we go.
Okay, and so your HR area is right, if you could point to that, Alvin, right in there. And again, right next to the general manager. And one of the things we talked about is there's a lot of interaction between the two of them. Your public service, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's great. I just wanted to make sure that that office was in an area that gives it the stature and the facility that it deserves. Also, I wanted to comment on the boardroom. I have no desire to look at my fellow board members.
Okay.
I like the mid arch, if you will.
Okay.
And also as much space between the directors, and not for the reason that it might seem like, but I would like to have the ultra wide monitors for each director, so that someday, if a board decides to become more serious in the operations of engineering meetings and so forth, they'll have room to show their camera, their all the different things on their screen that they need to. These little screens that we're all used to using need to go away, and we need to learn how to have several projects open on a screen at one time. And to do that, you need big screen. That's just me. I doubt you can squeeze all that in there, but if you can, then you're approaching a boardroom that can be utilized for many more things than just board meetings. I
Agreed.
think.
Agreed.
And the general manager's office and the flow between the board coming in and going, I think it's extraordinarily important that what you've done here is perfect, or approaching perfect. I think that the directors and the general manager as well
Right.
should be able to come and go without any obstruction or gathering attention from employees throughout the building. I just think that's important from my own experience.
Agreed.
Then
Also, the other thing I just want to point out is, having the idea of a flex office space that, say, you need to come in and do some work as a director or trustee, is that you have a space that you can go in and do that.
right. And the closed session room, I like what you've done there. I'm glad that was given the attention it deserves. And it'll be a real plus going forward. Does the general manager going to utilize that as well? Is that going to be his conference room, I guess, and also used for closed session? Because my feeling is engineering is going to need their conference room.
Right.
And the general manager shouldn't be sharing his, anything. He should be completely isolated. And I actually think many of those parts of the operation need to have, I guess they can share restrooms, but I don't think the general manager should. And I don't think that the board should be sharing restrooms with, the ladies down the hall, if you know what I mean. So just.
Okay. And that's why we have the restrooms right next to that. Do you have the separate restrooms for the board members and the general manager and the staff kind of in the executive wing, although they can go to the main restrooms out here off of the lobby. But the idea of that closed session room is that is for the general manager or anyone that he designates to utilize that room.
Great. And do they have boardrooms or conference rooms in the more interior section of the building? I see it.
Yeah, so let's go over to that. So there's a shared conference room right there. There's actually a conference room in the accounting section. So if you look at the oven, if you can see that. So each kind of area has a meeting space within it. If you can go to the left a little bit, or go to the next plan, actually, Alvin. And so again, if you see kind of in the light teal color, you see the conference room there in the left-hand side of engineering, over to the left right there that he's pointing to next to SCADA. The idea is each area has its own kind of meeting space, but there are some shared areas and too. So the idea of whether it's a wellness space or larger groups can meet in those larger conference spaces that they can share. So the only one that's really shared is that one over there by the lounge, or kind of that shared conference room there. And so each of them have meeting spaces.
That's excellent. And I guess everybody throughout the agency has had their input on this stuff, and what it looks like it's coming together beautifully to me. I don't see anything that I could complain about. On the subject of the ingress and egress, just to point out, I think there should be 4 ways to get in and out. But that's just me being overly concerned about sharing a single lane in and out for like the public. I don't want anybody bumping their fenders and trying to get in. And I'm worried about having to go uphill. Is that going to be an issue, or because of where you've got the drainage? What do they call those? The flood control aspect of this? That all bothers me, and I don't know what, I'm looking at. I'm not getting a full picture of how that's going to work out. So I don't.
Yeah, we still, if we could go back to the site plan, Alvin. We have a lot of work obviously left to do in terms of the engineering and working out those details. We do have a general plan for how we're going to grade this and how we're going to get egress and ingress into the site, and also be able to deal with water quality and drainage. And that's why you're seeing that basin kind of along 2 bunch palms. And also even in the other site plan, if we want to eliminate part of the public parking, we would have additional basin area along there where we can drain a very large area. You do have the conservation land and floodway over to the right also over there. So we think we can deal with that, but we need to get our engineers involved. Hopefully, if the board is happy enough with the direction that we're going, we can get moving forward in terms of the engineering of that and get you some more detail.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I still think we should put it in the better location, but I've been beat down on that enough, so I won't bring it up again. Thank you.
You're
Thank
very
you,
welcome.
Steve. Those are some good comments. Right now, I'd like to hear from other members of the board. Vice President Wright?
Yeah, yes, I got a few questions. We know we're windy area out there.
Yes.
Desert Hot Springs got a lot of wind. Did you take into consideration the wind and areas like that maybe could be wind free possibly? In the back, it's kind of hard to tell when I'm looking at stuff.
Yeah, and we don't, we have a number of other renderings and things that we could show you, but Alvin, if you could just zoom into the site plan there in terms of the employee area in the back. One of the things we did is developed outside of that staff lounge is a kind of a wind screen, if you will. No, not there, right there, right outside of that area. And then we also have a secondary landscape berm, which is kind of that oval area in the area that he's pointing to now. The idea is breaking that wind and stopping that. And so that employees can go outside, they can have that ability to move in and out. We're very cognizant of, and I've done work out there before, done a number of projects in the Desert Hot Springs area, is, we've got to look at how the wind is blowing in terms of doors and having access so that we can make sure we can open doors. What you're seeing is, in a lot of these cases where we're tucking doorways back into kind of almost like alcoves, is protecting those doorways so that, we'd use the building and the landscape to break some of that up. And so we are taking that into account, and we'll be doing a lot more work in that area.
Oh, great. Cubicles versus the COVID. When we went to go visit the agency, there was a lot of cubicles, and I'm assuming a lot of these are cubicles. How did that work during COVID for them? Or
they actually went almost virtual, working from home for a lot of their staff during the biggest outbreaks of COVID, but it actually worked fairly well. They put in, I think, I think what you saw when you were there was plexiglass dividers. And so they're able to do that, but still keep a collaborative, open work environment. Alvin, if you could go to the floor plan. And so let's just zoom into maybe the accounting section. And so you do have, offices along kind of both sides, but you have the open workstations, but the ability that you could have those dividers between there so that you're able to keep that kind of separation, if you will. And if you look, you're really more than 6 feet away from anyone, in both directions.
okay, great. Okay, another one is, you already answered about windows and doors and the wind and the sun.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you on that. I saw the colored concrete. I don't know where that was going to go on the buildings or on the ground, but colored concrete with our water, especially on the ground, colored ground concrete gets the minerals and the white stuff that gets stuck on the colored concrete. Most of the time, it doesn't look great after a while.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's something that we'll take into account. Yes.
Okay, and the roof material, I think it was on option 3, a nice pretty red roof up there. What was that material?
Alvin, I'm going to let you answer that one.
Yeah, maybe Rick, I don't know if you had.
Yeah, so that we'd be looking at something that represents or is similar to copper, or maybe something with a little more rust color in it. Architecturally, we call it core tin, but ideally you would find something that replicates that color, not the actual core tin or copper material.
Copper. So you're talking metals anyway. I think
Yes.
we've discussed that before. All the roofs were going to be metal roofs anyway, correct?
It's a combination. In a lot of cases here, what you're seeing is actual, I don't want to say flat roofs because no roof is flat.
No, we don't
Uh,
want flat roofs.
right.
They leak.
Yes, yeah.
Quicker.
But we would do what we call a membrane roof. And they're actually been very successful in the desert and lasted for a number of years on projects. But we can bring that out and show it to the staff and to the board if they so desire to see exactly that as we develop the project.
Okay, good, good. Okay, I know I don't think our employees want rain anymore in
No,
their
no,
building. They have
exactly.
enough here. So I just know that
Yes.
metal roofs, like they're almost a lifetime,
Yes.
thing, so.
Yes, didn't you have a flood, I think?
Yes, we've had several of them here.
Yes.
I liked the idea of the smaller parking lot. I don't think that we need more than, a couple hundred parking spaces. The 300 and
Okay.
something would be a real record breaker
Yeah.
for us
Okay.
in the long run. And I think that's about it for now. But
Okay.
are we going to get to see these, be able to look at these pictures more than just today? Or will you have other ones available then that you think would
We
be better for us to
we
look at?
absolutely can. We can make available kind of a, Rick, if we could put together kind of a portfolio of different pictures for each of these options and provide that to staff to give to the board.
You guys okay with that?
Yeah.
You want to see? Yeah,
That's a
okay.
good idea. Good idea.
I'm just going to ask, did you have a favorite from right off the bat? Not that you want, I'm trying to pin anyone down today, but I'm just curious.
Well, for me, the option number 2 was the one that I was drawn to, even before I found out that it was the least expensive of the 3 options. I
Okay.
like that one better,
Put it
but
back on number 2. See, I can't, I need them next to each other.
Yeah, okay.
To see them.
Yeah. All right. Very good.
Oh, okay, I see that. Okay.
okay. Director Sewell, do you have any comments?
Yeah, one of my questions was comparing the 2 site plans. It didn't affect the size of the buildings. It was
No.
just mostly the parking.
It affected positioning of the operations building. We actually pulled it a little bit further towards 2 Bunch just to get an adequate space still. But by reducing the parking, we're not affecting. So Alvin, if you can go back to that a little bit, if you can get that alternate site plan up. And I can explain what we did. It's not really all that noticeable, but what you're seeing is on this one, we actually pulled the operations building down just a little bit. We would probably even look at possibly eliminating that row of parking there along the fence on the side closest to 2 Bunch. And then you really didn't affect there's no difference in the size of the buildings at all. There is differences in the size of the canopies though out in the back. As we cut the amount of parking from 150 for the operations and white fleet, or I guess the white fleet from 150 down to I think 89, which is still more than the number of vehicles that we were given.
Would that last quite a while, Brian? Yeah, okay, okay.
Okay. And then I did like Director Grasha's suggestion of whether it's an additional fence or changing the fence line to have the staff parking be protected.
Locked, yeah, where they could lock it if they had to, yeah.
And
Sure.
then just about all my other questions were already answered, but I'd say I'm leaning towards option 2 or 3. Option 2 looks like it has the least amount of windows there facing the south. So I think that might save us some money in the long run too on energy cost.
Okay,
But I appreciate it, and all 3 options are
excellent.
very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Duncan, do you have any comments?
Yeah, a couple of them here. Starting on the dais, I prefer the straight one. I believe it's number 3, like we have now.
Okay.
I want to look out at the audience.
We aren't straight.
And we've only got 5 directors. It's not hard to lean over and look at somebody.
Okay,
Or the one with a light arch, maybe, but the horseshoe
yeah,
would take away from looking at the audience, and that's really where our focus needs to be.
okay.
We're supposed to be talking to each other.
Well, yeah, but
Well, that's what boards do, talk to each other. We
Well,
don't
yeah.
talk to people, we talk to
Okay.
each other.
Well, yeah, but we gotta listen to those people. On the buildings, I prefer either 1 or 3.
Okay.
I really don't have an artistic talent at all, but I don't care for the angles.
Okay,
On number 2, that one just doesn't appeal to me. I like 3, but how much would all that glass affect our cooling costs? I know you can put green glass and you can get
yeah.
shade and all that, but
We would have to do some further analysis on that, but I don't know. I mean, option 1 has significantly more glass, and I would say that one would be, but I don't know between option 2 and 3 that there's a significant difference. We could actually probably even cut back the amount of glass, say, in the boardroom a little bit on option 3 if we wanted to, or if the board desired to get it more in the range of this. So I would tell you that probably option 2 and 3, we could get the glass to be about the same.
yeah, okay.
Even option 1, for example, Alvin, if you could point to that kind of clear story area, if we simply change that to a metal panel, you're getting back towards the amount of glass that you have in the other option. So any of these can be adjusted is what I guess I'm trying to tell you.
All right, and you can, have a little bit of a setback, have a bigger
Yeah.
overhang,
Yeah,
kind of protect some of that glass.
exactly.
Okay, as far as the color palette, like I said, I don't have an artistic bone in my body. So as long as it's not purple and orange,
Okay.
you know what, it's good.
All right.
You said something about there was a corner in one of the photos. Are you planning on bringing in the solar covered parking? The solar panels to use as covered parking? Is that part of your plan?
That was part of the plan, yes. Again,
Okay.
if budget allows,
Right, okay.
yes. And obviously, everywhere we're going to look at sustainable features and bring those options to you, show you if there's any cost in those, and then make decisions together.
Okay. There's this two issues here I'm trying to balance out. This needs to be a 50-year building for us.
Yes.
50, 60, 75, who knows? I'll be long gone before its functional life is over.
Yes.
I don't want it to look like a brick warehouse, or a prison.
Right.
But we're not spending our money. We're spending our customers' money. I'm very conscientious about having too much fluff, too much artwork, deco, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
It needs to be functional. It needs to be a nice looking building, but we don't need a Taj Mahal,
Okay.
Entryway. Be, conservative there.
Okay.
And from the overhead, in fact, the photo you've got right there, is there much room for expansion? If we're talking about 50 years, with the growth DHS is experiencing and expecting, we might need to double that size of that headquarters.
50 years, the building will be gone anyway. The building won't be in good shape.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, with each of these options, you actually have significant areas where you could, build additional space. I think one of the things that we talked about was even projecting out and in the building that we have before you, there is expansion space built into that.
Okay.
And so we have taken that into account with your staff, and they were extremely diligent about bringing that up to us also.
Okay, perfect. And then lastly, I hounded Danny Friend for about a year.
Yeah.
To get our current parking lot enclosed
Okay.
for the employees. So yeah, that needs to be gated for the employees. And that's all I have. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Vice President Wright, you had an additional
Just got
question?
another question about the flat roof thing. I am concerned about flat roofs. So what you're telling, it looks like, now I'm looking at the pictures, looks like we have a lot of flat roofs in those buildings. Is that correct, or?
Okay, so we can break down the options. Building or option 1 is probably almost all sloped roofs. Option 2 and 3, 2 has more sloping roofs than 3. And option 3 is probably mostly flat roofs, what we consider flat roofs, but they're really not flat.
That's what I want to know. Do they have a little pitch to them?
Oh, they absolutely do. They,
Okay.
For drainage.
Yeah, for
Yes.
drainage, that we, because, yeah, because
Yes.
flat roofs that don't drain are. a pain in the
exactly.
butt.
There's no flat roofs. I mean,
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
you're very welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir. That was a very excellent presentation. I really liked your work that we saw out at Highland. That was a very nice facility, and we look forward to having a new facility here.
Excellent.
Okay,
Thank you for having us.
moving on.
Yeah, look
moving-
forward to working with you.
Moving on to item 13, Assessment District, Mission Springs Water District website update.
Thank you, President Martin. Actually, our Public Affairs Manager will be taking this item. Marion?
Good afternoon, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Well, following the launch of the website last fall, we quickly recognized the need to add a section on the website that would assist local property owners and educate the public on some of the many things we've been doing to protect our groundwater, specifically as they relate to the expansion of our wastewater systems and our assessment districts. After the last board meeting, we thought it would be helpful if we expedited the rollout of the new section and also provided the board and the public with a quick overview of our new website section and some of the information that's included on it. For those of you that are familiar, you may recognize some of these graphics I'm going to show you. They're from our ledge brochure. And as I'm sure you are all aware, the district's groundwater quality protection project overlays an area where high quality potable water is delivered but not treated for direct reuse. I don't think I'm not moving. There we go. The project's goals are simple: eliminate known pollution sources, reclaim water to reduce demand on limited groundwater resources, protect underground storage capacity, and leverage multiple funding opportunities. We've long known that expansion of the sewer system saves money and protects our aquifer. According to the EPA, cleanup of contaminated groundwater can be as much as 100 times the cost of prevention. And residents of the Desert Hot Springs area have long recognized this. This dates back even to the early 70s when AD1 was successfully formed and construction of the Horton plant was completed. Since that time, area residents have approved multiple assessment districts in and around Desert Hot Springs. On the screen, you can see some of our more recent efforts and how we are continuing to expand and reach with additional assessment districts and funding from federal and state grants. But expanding the sewer system comes at a cost. To date, more than $25 million in local match funds through property secured assessment districts and $25.5 million in state and federal grant funding. And we are not stopping there. The district is continuing to pursue federal and state grant opportunities to fund additional sewer and wastewater projects. It's important to note that as the district adds more sewer to our wastewater system, we must also increase the capacity of our wastewater processing plants to serve those customers. As the board is aware, the Horton wastewater treatment plant is approaching its limit, processing close to 2 million gallons of wastewater a day. To reduce stress on the plant and add more capacity to our district, the district is currently developing the new regional water reclamation facility. To minimize the financial impact of construction on our customers, we have secured state and federal grants along with low interest financing to cover the cost of the project. To help communicate all of this to our community, we've added a new section on our website that includes all of the information I just presented, along with a list of our current assessment districts and their status, our 10-point grading criteria, an interactive assessment district map that allows customers to input their address or their parcel number to determine their exact assessment district and or their sub area. We've also included helpful FAQs that include contacts for lien and notice of assessment information and background on the formation and uses of assessment districts. We will continue to refine the information on these pages, and we'll be adding more to the individual assessment district pages that we've created. We are also looking to identify additional opportunities to go out into the community to share this information as well, including a meeting planned in April with residents of Mission Lakes Country Club. And that includes my brief presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
No, good job. Thank you, Marion. Sorry about my phone in the middle of your presentation.
Randy, any comments or questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Grasha?
Just a question on the assessment districts. Does this include, is it just assessment districts that are in motion now, or does it include assessment districts that are already kind of completed, do you know, does that make sense? That's a question. I don't know if it sounds like a question.
I have included on the webpage a list of assessment districts that were completed in the past with some brief information like how many parcels or homes they serve and also different status of those. So it includes everything from 1 all the way to 18.
Oh, great. That gives everybody a little confidence that the ones that are in process now might actually happen, because it's been happening for years, and we're just now getting to them so they can feel included in the wastewater party, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Moving on to the consent agenda. Take a look at the minutes over the weekend and also the register of demands, and be prepared if you wish to discuss each one individually to state so on Tuesday. Directors' reports. Does anybody want to give their director's report today?
No, I think the only thing I have is probably that Urban Water Institute that was yesterday and today, but I'll do something on Tuesday on that one, because if I wait till next month, it'll be old news.
Okay, all right. Mr. Grasha?
Well, I had attended I think 2, maybe 3 of the elections by division meetings at DWA, and I've been mouthing off about different things, and I don't think I'm being heard the way I'd like to be, but anyway, that's going well over there. I know we've got a report coming up on Tuesday, and I know that it's not drawing the kind of attention we think it should here, but maybe we'll get some people with some interest. But I think that the maps that I saw seem to be, for us, seem to be pretty much like what we had from last time around. I don't know that I saw any change at all, really, but maybe there were some. It'll be interesting to see the demographic makeup of those districts compared to what they were from 10 years ago, the data that we use. So anyway, I don't have anything other than that. I think the 2 important things are each agency's maps by division. So there you have it. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Duncan?
Monday or Tuesday.
Tuesday, all right, and I will do mine on Tuesday as well. General Manager's report.
Thank you, President Martin. As we typically do with our general manager's reports, we'll look at 3 different components: just general manager's reports and general comments from the general manager, a finance update, and an outreach update. In his absence, I would like to draw everyone's attention to the executive summary that's in the general manager's report. I think it does a very good job of detailing and updating on our disconnections and how the district has applied for funding, obtained funding, dispersed the funds we've received, and a path moving forward when we begin the disconnect or turn off of water services for non-payment. I could go through a highlight, but I think the document does a very nice job, and it also encouraged people to go to our website at MSWD.org. With that being said, the one thing that I would like to mention is staff did attend earlier this week. The general manager and public affairs staff attended a joint informational hearing on the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act virtually, the SGMA. This hearing took place as part of the California Assembly with the Water, Parks, and Wildlife Committee, as well as the Local Government Committee. Mission Springs Water District did provide written comments pertaining to our unique and challenging SGMA issues that we have here in the Coachella Valley. We will continue to keep the board updated on our comments and what we receive back from the state. If there's any questions on that or the general manager's report, I'll take them now.
Any questions from the board?
If
Randy,
not,
any questions from you?
Nope, I'm good.
Director Gracia, any questions?
This is the general manager's report that this segment is part of, you're talking about here? Is that where this comes from?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to say the general manager report, I'm almost done reading it. It's fascinating reading, like always, and it's the improvements from the days when I first arrived here are great to see, and I can't thank you enough for the work that I know you're putting into that. And I just want you to know, I read it. I know probably all 5 of us do, but it's extraordinarily helpful to know what's happening without having to bug you guys all the time with little things. Thanks.
Thank you.
President Martin, I would like to allow
Yes, go
the
ahead.
Director of Finance and Accounting to
Oh,
give his
okay.
presentation.
Sure.
Arturo?
Here we go. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Thank you, Assistant General Manager Macy and President Martin. It'll be a quick presentation of the district's financial standing as of January 31st, 2022. January was a particular good month for the district because we did apply for the state grant for the arrearage project and received those funds, $1.2 million. In addition, the funds that we're supposed to have been received in December for the property taxes, we received in January of a tune of $6.8 million. And so you can see the district is doing well, even compared to last year as of January 31st. Just because it did come up at the last meeting when we presented the mid-year budget, the debt service ratio, as you remember, it was a number 6, it did jump to 22. And that's simply because of all the ins and outs of excuse me, the ins and outs of all these monies that have been coming in throughout the month. That puts the district at a very well position with $45 million sitting in cash. Of that, $31.2 million are also restricted for the board purposes. And we will be transferring some of this money to the Cal Trust funds only because it does make more sense to keep it there until we need to bring that down to cover all the construction costs. And that's all I have on the financials. Like I said, the district is doing well. Our customers are calling and thanking us for that money that we did get from the state and applying it to their accounts. So it's been received very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead.
The Skyborn Ventures, did that deal close, and did we, I don't want to go off in an area that I shouldn't go, but there was going to be some, they were going to write a check for something over 4 million. I wondered if that came in. And
yes, and that is in the GM report as well. It did come in. However, as you know, those funds are allocated for those particular projects. So they're not actually revenue to the district. They're sitting as a deposit on a reimbursable jobs that we're doing for Skyborn. So
Right.
That's where they're sitting. So, and you won't see them in income, but yes, we did receive those funds.
So that money is not on this graphic?
It is. It's part of the cash that was received. However, it's not part of the operating revenue.
Right.
Because we did not make any money off of that. We're supposed to be spending those funds for the projects that they're allocated for, and that's how they're sitting in our general ledger.
And so that money is isolated for a particular purpose, and that's part of the 45 million. So it's not another set of books off in the sunset that I haven't seen it, I'm hoping, right?
Correct. And we can easily identify those in the general ledger, of course.
Excellent. Thank you. That takes a lot of stress off of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arturo. Next will be the outreach update. Marion?
I was going to
Oh,
get
I'm sorry.
board comments first on the financials. Director Duncan, do you have any comments on the financials?
Yes, and this kind of ties the GM's report and Arturo together. Arturo, I know we're going to resume disconnections for non-payment here before too long. Do we have a plan to reach out and contact our existing customers that are way behind and work with them on getting them caught up at a rate they can afford?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you beat Marion to the punch, because Marion has been instrumental to the outreach we're doing. In fact, Desert Water Agency and IID, I believe, have already started shutting people off without doing the outreach that we're doing. With Marion's help, we're reaching out to those customers after we apply those funds from the state. If they're still delinquent, we're reaching out. The law says that as long as the customer contacts us, we can give them a 12-month extension to work with them.
Good.
So definitely
good.
we're doing that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would rather work with somebody as much as realistically, and feasibly possible, rather than shut somebody off. That should be our last resort. But they do have to work on bringing their account current. So I'll wait to hear what Marion says.
I got a question, quick question. Arturo, you said on the current water bills, or people are getting their credit on, and what does that look like on their water bills? What does it say?
It's showing us as a payment, because that is how it was received. However, customers are noticing that obviously they did not make that payment, and when they're calling in to find out what it was, and before we could do any reaching out to the community about those funds, they're finding out that it was for the state monies, showing up as a payment, because again, it was deposited as such, and we had to show it as a payment to the customer's accounts.
Okay, we could have maybe put a little bit more verbiage on there. Would that work, to let them know that that was credit from I don't know, grant monies or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, and we can still do that for sure.
Okay, great, because let them know. It might save you a few phone calls, but it also let people know what it's for.
And actually, it's turned out to be a really good calls with customers. It gives the ladies at the front office a break from the typical calls that they get with upset customers.
Well,
they've been very good calls, so thank you.
Okay, that's true. Maybe we ought to leave it so they have those nice calls. No, just kidding. Just maybe on I don't know. Just wanted to make sure they knew what it was. It's always good to have some verbiage on there of where it came from. That's something the district did. And you did, Arturo, you put all that hard work into getting that money for them. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Marion?
Okay, with that, thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me some time to go over some of our public affairs activities. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I have a short PowerPoint that'll highlight some of our efforts in last month, but more information is definitely available in your packet in the General Manager's update. On Thursday, February 10th, we hosted the live stream Bloodmobile. In total, we had more than 26 donations, including 9 from local community members. The event was very successful, and as we filled up our appointments, Livestream actually extended their hours and allowed us to get additional signups. I would like to extend a special thank you to everyone that donated, and also recognize the efforts of Office Specialist Carol Morin, who made it her mission to recruit employees and everyone she came in contact with during the past month. We are already in talks with Livestream for an additional blood drive in May or early June, and once we have a date set, we will let you know so you can mark your calendars. In anticipation of Tuesday's public hearing and our redistricting efforts, during the past month, the Public Affairs team has been encouraging residents to participate in the process by reviewing and providing comments on our draft division maps located on the MSWD website. On your screen are some of the graphics being presented on the district's social media accounts and also in targeted posts for residents within our service territory. As was mentioned just a few moments ago about the moratorium on disconnections expiring on December 31st, which this has signaled a need for utilities to once again resume their state regulated shutoff policies. Throughout February and March, we have been conducting an aggressive communications campaign that includes paid social media, bill messaging, direct mailers, newsletter stories, emails, phone calls, and door hangers, encouraging customers to contact the district to enroll in a payment plan or apply for one of the various utility bill assistance programs currently available. Included in the next statement, there will be a newsletter story that does talk about that credit, and it talks about how the district applied for and received those funds. We will also be working to continue to monitor the number of customers behind in their payments, and we can adjust our marketing campaign as needed to make sure that these residents are reminded about the options that we have and that we're here to help them get their accounts back on track. Starting at the end of March, we will be also offering Water 101 classes to community leaders who want to learn more about water and the management of this precious resource. The public affairs team is reaching out to local clubs, HOAs, and have invited city staff and leaders to participate. Meetings are going to be for invitation only and are being held the fourth Thursday of each month between 6 and 7 p.m. at the new Desert Hot Springs Library. And we will be recording these meetings and may add additional sessions depending on the attendance of the first 4. Our general manager has graciously agreed to be our presenter, and we anticipate these classes will be highly interactive and very educational. And now we get to go to my favorite part of today's presentation. Our next 2 videos are ready for your review. This month, we're going to be talking about MSWD's proud history of serving water and wastewater services to the Desert Hot Springs community, and the importance of avoiding fats, oil, and grease and wipes in our pipes. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start those videos. I don't think I share. I'm going to stop real quick because I don't think I have sound. I'm sorry. Let's see here. There we go. Now we should be good.
For nearly 70 years, Mission Springs Water District has upheld its commitment to provide a safe and reliable water supply to the Desert Hot Springs community and the surrounding area.
The district has grown and changed with the times.
We've grown very gracefully and kept our customers very well suited for water.
Getting fresh drinking water wasn't always as simple as turning on the tap. Water has a rich history in this area. This part of the desert became famous after early homesteaders discovered the natural hot springs. But it wasn't until 1941 when L.W. Coffey established the village of Desert Hot Springs, initially stretching across 1 square mile between Palm Drive and Pearson Boulevard, that both tourism and the population began to grow, creating a strong need for a safe and secure water system. On February 3, 1953, voters elected to form Desert Hot Springs County Water District, as it was originally named, with 96% support. What started in humble beginnings quickly transformed. The first 5 members of the board of directors were tasked with laying the foundation of the water district, which has since grown to cover 135 square miles. Built in 1972, the Allen L. Horton Water Reclamation Facility honors Horton, who served as a board member for 12 years and played a vital role in supporting wastewater treatment throughout the city.
What it really takes to run a district like this is astronomical, both in time, money, experience, quality, planning, personnel, equipment. It's amazing what it takes to run a district, just to turn on the tap and get a glass of water.
In 1987, the district took on the name we know today, Mission Springs Water District, to better connect with the customers it serves. The name Mission Springs is also more descriptive, since the district draws most of its water from 2 major underground sources, the Mission Creek and the Desert Hot Springs subbasins. As the district expanded to more than 1.25 million feet of pipelines, 13 water wells, and 24 reservoirs, leaders recognized the importance of being a part of the greater community, beyond supplying water and sewer services.
The turning point was when we won our first gold medal for Berkeley Springs water tasting contest. Gave the community this pride. It made a great connection between us and our community.
Mission Springs Water District has since won 9 special taste awards over the years, even tapping the title of Best Tasting Water in the World. 1995 was a pivotal year for MSWD as they implemented the Groundwater Guardian Program. Recognized internationally, the goal of this program is to educate the community on the importance of protecting our water supply. Through the years, technology has also evolved.
We have gone from using typewriters to computers since I've been here. Technology's taken over.
From equipment becoming more energy efficient to building a solar field that offsets the costs to our customers, MSWD is always looking ahead. As the Horton plant is nearing capacity, currently treating 2 million gallons of wastewater a day.
We're building a new treatment plant down on Indian Avenue.
Once completed, the new regional water reclamation facility will treat an additional 1.5 million gallons of wastewater a day.
We are working to make sure that we have a sustainable and reliable water supply, not only for us, but for future generations.
To learn more about how Mission Springs Water District is serving the community, visit mswd.org.
And now we'll go to the next video.
Each and every day, Mission Springs Water District treats millions of gallons of wastewater collected through our sewer system. But sending the wrong things down the drain could clog those pipes and impact the water treatment process, creating big messes for you, your neighbors, and our entire community. 2 of the biggest troublemakers are wipes and fog.
FOG is an acronym for fats, oils, and grease.
Your steak trimmings,
Salad dressings.
your avocados, any kind of fatty foods at all, don't run them down the garbage disposal. You can chop them up and think they're gone, but they're not gone. They're still there. Those need to be disposed of in the trash.
Other items that can cause harm to your pipes include dairy, mayonnaise, bacon grease, sour cream, and any type of cooking oil.
Pouring fat, oil, or grease down the drain at home can do a couple of different things.
As it gets down into the drain, it's going to re-solidify and end up causing you backups and clogs in the future.
Now that you know the importance of fog, let's move on to wipes.
In general, wipes are not flushable. It's going to clog and do a lot of damage.
The flushable wipes that you see, they're not going to degrade as fast as your traditional toilet paper. So even though it says flushable, by the time they get in the drain, they accumulate and they'll end up causing a clog or a backup in your home.
Other bathroom items that need to be thrown in the trash are cotton balls, tissues, cotton swabs, and feminine products.
And they clog not only our sewer system, but when they get to our treatment plant, they clog our whole system down there.
By disposing of fats, oils, and grease and wipes down the drain, it's going to potentially cause problems for your own home, but also your neighbors and our system as a whole.
By doing your part and properly discarding fog and wipes, you and your household will help keep our sewer system running smoothly. To learn more, visit mswd.org.
And that concludes my share today. Thank you very much for your time.
Wow, that was weird.
Yeah. Great videos, Marion. I hate the sound of my own voice coming back to me, but those were really well put together.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on that too. I think they were extraordinarily well done, and I'm so pleased you decided to move along with this series. It's going to be very, very helpful to the district going forward. I only saw one little glitchy spot that I think I might make an adjustment to, but the the flow is great and the quality is as good as you could hope for. So congratulations and thank you for the hard work.
Thank you. And if you do have any changes or edits you'd like, just send me a quick note and I'd be happy to make them.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Any more for the general manager's report?
No, that concludes our report. Thank you.
Okay. Item 18 says, thank you letter for Food Now, and I don't have it in my binder. So you have yours available there?
Oh, I don't have a binder, but what item is it? Number 18?
Item 18.
We sponsored the golf tournament last weekend for Food Now, and I believe they sent a thank you note for our participation. And I think Dory may have a copy of it. We can provide that for you at Monday's meeting.
Okay, I can read it again at during
Here
the.
it is. I've got it right here if you want. Did you want to do something or wait till Monday
Uh,
or Tuesday?
Let's wait until Tuesday.
Okay, I did. It is in the packet.
Okay. Well, it's not in mine, though.
Well, it's online. I can, maybe somebody
You're
else.
trying to tell me
They
something.
can give you a copy so you can read it on Tuesday.
Okay. District council comments, item 19.
Yes, we don't have any closed sessions today.
Okay.
So, and I have nothing further.
Okay.
We need to have an update on one of those items. And I don't know why we didn't get one last month and now we're not getting one this month, or is that going to come on Monday?
Which item?
The, I don't know the name of the outfit, Coachella. I had questions about that need to be addressed, and based on your report from 2 months ago or more, when that first report that we got, then you gave an update, and then we haven't heard anything. And
Okay.
I'm concerned that you go too far afield on this.
All right, I understand the request, and I'll talk to the general manager. He's not here today, and then we'll get back to you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, director's comments. Director Grasha. Anything further?
Sorry about that. I think that was the comment that I would have made at director's comments when that one item, but I do have some thoughts on the general manager report that we might have to go over that are not at all problematic, but there were a couple of things. Something happened just before the meeting that completely set me off, astray, I should say, in a good way. And we have some celebrating to do tonight, I think, after the meeting. So I got a little disjointed on the subject. So I'll bring it up Monday or Tuesday, I guess.
Yes. Okay. All right. Director Duncan, any comments?
Yes, one, and I really haven't thought it completely through, so I don't know if I can even formulate a decent sentence here. Backing up a couple notches on our where we got the grant money to apply towards clients' bills. Right. For rentals, we're doing owner-only billing. How do we know that the credit that a tenant should get is actually getting to the tenant if they're reimbursing the owner for water? Do they both get a copy? Does the owner and the tenant get a copy? I mean, how we know owners aren't pocketing the money and charging the full rate to tenants? And I know that's really not our concern, but it just kind of popped into my mind.
I can answer that for you, Director Duncan.
Please.
The state was very particular in how they asked for the information. We did report it based on account number. So based on account number, if a tenant has an account versus the owner who's responsible for that water bill, is how we applied those funds.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Director Sewell.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a big thank you to Carol Morin for setting up the blood drive and any other employees that worked and helped to set that up. I know we've typically done them about twice a year, and I'm excited for us to increase that number. With the number of calls I get from live stream, blood is really needed. So I hope we can get this to be a bigger event each and every time and get the community involved.
Yes, I concur. Vice President Wright.
No, nothing today. Thank you.
And I have nothing to add today. So with that, our meeting is adjourned.